Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 3 p.m. session where I will be walking you through video AI and the many features that become available to you when using our applications. Since we're all filmmakers here, I thought it would be great to start with a video that demonstrates some of the functionality of video AI. It has background music, so if we could turn that up for a moment. So that's Video AI, our leading flagship program for processing video and increasing the resolution and frame rate of your content using AI models. There are a lot of valid concerns about the use of AI in the industry, and we're going to get into the different steps we've taken to protect your privacy and the security of your footage. But first, I want to get into a little bit more about what the app can do for you. So we're a desktop application for both Mac and Windows systems. All of you here have worked with video editing software in the past. You'll be very familiar with our interface. And as far as system requirements go, if you have a recent graphics card, you'll be able to run Video AI on your system. The application includes a few different tools that you can use to enhance your footage in different ways. We have enhancement, frame interpolation, advanced upscaling, motion deblur, and grain generation. If you've been with us for some time, you may have seen a few changes to our interface. Some of you today at the booth have talked to us about the old days of Video AI 2. We're now on Video AI 5 with many new models and features. This is what our previous interface looked like. Just raise your hand if you've seen this or used this on your computer. Thank you to our longtime supporters. So what can Video AI do for you today? We are able to accomplish very impressive frame interpolation. If you've ever shot a sequence at full speed, regular frame rate, regular shutter speed, you know that you have very limited options for converting it to slow motion in post-production. If you don't have the right number of frames, you can't stretch it over the required amount of time to create a good result. Our motion estimation technology is the most advanced in the industry right now. This is the best AI frame interpolation that's available for purchase. And you can see at the top here, this is the Ion model combined with the Themis model. All of our models are named specifically so that if you're working on a movie for 5 years, you can always go back to the exact same models you were using in the past. And here you can see that with very few input frames, we're able to generate really detailed particles of water, movement of the swimmer's body here. This is creating 8 interpolated frames from a pair of frames. So we're able to do up to 16 times slow motion with any input clip. Here's another example of slow motion. You can see that we're able to dramatically slow down the waterfall. And our new models do really well with fine particles. You don't have to be afraid of bubbles or steam or smoke or fire or anything else that moves very randomly in your footage. Our latest generation of interpolation models is ready to handle that. We're also very known for remastering standard definition footage. For the documentary editors out there, I'm sure you've been in situations where you shoot a wonderful 4K ultra-sharp interview, and you're cutting every 5 minutes back to DV footage with chroma noise, stair-stepping, aliasing, all kinds of problems. So our models are fine-tuned to deal with those specific problems with standard definition source footage. We're able to deal with specific problems for different formats, the different artifacting that's created by rendering at different bit rates. We can deal with lots of different resolution changes, aspect ratios. It's a very production-ready tool, and it can be used to bridge the gap between the worst footage in your project and the very best. We've partnered with Electric Now, which is a leading FAST network that's available on Roku TV, Amazon TV, all the smart TVs. And on May 25th, so starting this weekend, to the 31st, they're going to be airing 132 remastered episodes of a few TV series that they own the rights to. That includes Conan the Adventurer, The Immortal, and The Lost World. Because of the projector today and the lighting and everything, I highly encourage you to come by our booth after this to review these shots in detail, but I thought it would be good to give you some kind of a demonstration. You can see that we do a great job improving the sharpness of edges here. We do a great job removing, the cross-hatching that happens on fine textures at low resolutions. Again, really recommend coming by to see this later on our nicer displays. And of course, if you have access to the fast networks, you should watch some of these in motion starting on the 25th. So here we have a few more examples. These are using a mix of different models. They're all available in the app. There's no custom work done here. This is an out-of-the-box solution that you can start using today. So I wanted to get into why a company like Electric Now feels comfortable using our AI to do this. Of course, we're at a moment now where AI technology is threatening some creative jobs. I think it's very valid to think that there's a future where screenplays get drafted by an AI model. And we have punch-up writers that make it into something unique. Nobody in this room wants that, I'm pretty sure. You can raise your hand if you want that, but you might need to leave after. So with that in mind, we wanted to build a production-ready tool that brings AI capability to your workstation. The top studios and VFX houses in the world love to work on air-gapped machines. Nobody wants Iron Man 5 to leak out a year and a half early with unfinished VFX, and we especially don't want that. So our tool can work entirely offline. After the initial setup, after you register your license, you can take this machine offline and use it for a year or more without ever connecting to the internet again. And even if you are connected to the internet, we do not train on user data. We don't even see what you're working on. We don't want to see what you're working on. No offense, I'm sure it's all really cool. But in terms of your privacy, we wanted to create a tool that lives on your machine. Your video frames do not leave your graphics card. That's the end of the journey. All of our AI models run locally, and you don't have to worry about feeding a large model and seeing your characters start to pop up and other things online. So offline local processing. We also integrate with existing editing tools. We know that the relationship that all of you have with your editing apps is a strong one. You've spent years learning how to use Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, Avid, Final Cut, and it's hard to move out of that. And you shouldn't have to move out of that unnecessarily. So we started to integrate with very popular editing apps. We currently have a plugin available for DaVinci Resolve and Adobe After Effects, and we plan to add more throughout the summer. This is the easiest way to access our models because right there in the timeline that you're working in, you can drag and drop, create color nodes, mix it in with other effects. It's the most flexible way to use the app. If you're using other tools, or if you're just working on a video for delivery somewhere, we are also, of course, a standalone application. And the last point here is optimization for all GPUs through hardware partnerships. Video AI is one of the last applications that still sees massive year-over-year gains in performance. Graphics card technology is moving as fast as ever. Neural engines, NPUs, and specialized processors for AI are becoming commonplace. How many of you are using Apple Silicon Macs? You see, that's a good amount. And we are fully supporting Core ML and the neural engine in our application. We work with all of the major graphics card vendors to optimize for their platform. So you get to stay where you are, use the hardware that you like, and install video AI just like anybody else. I wanted to talk a little bit more about cloud versus local processing, because I think there are some key points that make us a much easier proposition for a team that's thinking of incorporating AI technology into their work. We directly process on your existing hardware. If you've spent a lot of money on a nice machine that can cut red raw footage at 4K, that can play your timeline with all kinds of effects without having to pre-render, you're ready to go for video AI. Our system requirements are higher than most apps, but they're not unrealistic for video editors. Most of you, I imagine all of you, have access to a machine that can run this app really well. And then, of course, partnerships and the workflow integrations make it easier than ever to start using video AI. We don't want you to have to export an intermediate clip, bring it into the application, process it that way, go back around, sync that back up. This is as easy as applying grain or a title in Premiere Pro or in After Effects. There's also the cost factor. Our application only has one cost, the license cost, $299 by the way. And when you start working with cloud GPUs, that's only the beginning of the cost. If you start doing really well and you need to generate a lot of footage, you're going to pay a lot more for it. These GPUs have variable costs. If you were to try to book some crazy powerful GPU instance on Amazon AWS, the price today could be different from the price next week, next month, next year. And of course, there are transfer fees. Almost all of you, I'm sure, work with very high bitrate media. You use ProRes, Avid DNX, image sequences. We're not into compression until the very end here, and we understand that as a company. We want to offer the ability to keep that high fidelity workflow, that really high detail pipeline alive through our application. When you're working locally with video AI, your hardware is budgeted for your team size. If you're not in a rush, you don't really need the fastest graphics card ever. If you do quick turnarounds very often, you can invest in a card that becomes more valuable over time because you're getting more out of it. You're not renting it per hour forever. You also get to work from your own storage systems. And I'm sure all of you have terabytes and terabytes of footage, or maybe, sadly, you have to choose to delete some stuff after a while. But in any case, you have access to it locally, quickly. You can review it in full quality on your monitors right away. We want to continue that when you're working with our AI tools. So you get to work from your stack of portable SSDs or your fancy NAS system at your office. All of those formats for storage work just fine with video AI. We support all of the professional codecs that you would possibly expect to need as a working professional editor. A lot of these cloud AI tools are very limited in their output options. I'm sure a lot of you have worked with text-to-video models that are available as web demos, and in the end, your only download options are really MP4, which could be anything. It could be H.264 or H.265. It could have compressed audio. It could have a limit on the resolution. And all of that, is kind of a deal breaker for a professional editor. We, on the other hand, allow all of these formats and many, many more. If any of you are familiar with FFmpeg or VLC, if it opens in those, it opens in video AI. It's as simple as that. And that really covers 99.9% of video codecs. And for exports, we support a wide variety of delivery formats and intermediate formats. If you're an Avid editor, you can use the entire family of DNX HR codecs. If you're working with a visual effects team, we have access to OpenEXR. If you want to put out a highly compressed web streamable video directly from video AI, we support AV1. The projector has killed the AV, but AV1. We also support FFV1 for lossless video output with no degradation at all through compression. And of course, on macOS, we generate Apple-compliant ProRes files. They work 100% the same as any of the ones generated in Final Cut or Apple Compressor. And of course, the other factor when we're trying to create a professional tool that is built to bring AI capability to editors, we need to talk about the exact problems that we want to solve. There are infinite number of degradations that can happen to a video. And I'm sure with other clients that you've worked with in the past, you've received that tiny zip folder with very compressed assets, and there's no master copy. Nobody knows where the project file went. It's been years. And we are able to do very specific modifications to those files to make them look better. We've divided the main functions of the app into 4 categories: enhancement, frame interpolation, motion deblur, and stabilization. We do this for a few different reasons. People have different goals when they're running our app. We don't want to be an all-in-one, make your video magically better application, because we know that none of you believe that to be true. There's no all-in-one solution to what you do. Your entire career has been finding custom solutions for the project that you're working on. So we have compression recovery here, and thankfully, even on this projector, it looks like you'll be able to see that. So here you can see an MPEG-2 file at 270p. That's almost half of what you would actually be working with if you were working with SD footage from a DV camera, a digibeta tape, a standard definition TV recording, an old web streamable video. And we have high levels of compression visible there. Again, If you come by the booth, I'd love to demo this for you really close up. But the stair stepping that you see here on the gentleman's glasses, entirely corrected in the output here. And we just do a great job generating detail that seems realistic, but is a notable increase over the original input. This was using the iris enhancement model. This is upscaled by 4 times, and you could go even higher than that. We do support up to 8K, 16K outputs. Another thing that we've released recently that we think has a lot of traction behind it is high-quality denoise. By a show of hands, how many of you have started shooting at resolutions above 4K? OK, yeah, it's moving along rather quickly. And I'm sure you've noticed that when you pack more pixels into the same sensor size, they become less sensitive to light because they're physically smaller. There's a reason the Sony a7S is famous as this incredible low-light camera. It's because it's a 4K camera that only uses a 12 megapixel sensor. Those pixels have room to breathe. They have room to collect light. When you start going to 6K, 8K, 12K, or you're working with small sensor cameras like GoPros or Insta360 cameras, there's a lot less visible light for each pixel to receive. So what used to be a perfectly fine indoor shot at 1200 ISO now has a notable amount of noise in it. So we've created a new model called NIX. And what NIX does is analyze the difference between chromatic noise and static detail in these images and cleans it up automatically and creates a perfectly clean, ready for grading output file that is a lot more filmic than video-like. We're able to separate luma and chroma noise and reduce them separately. Because as we know, film grain is beautiful. It's sharp. It really shows off the critical focus point of your shots. If we retain a little bit of that in the form of luma noise and we entirely eliminate chroma noise, we create a much cleaner look. This is Ursa Mini Pro footage, originally shot at 12K. Of course, we've enlarged this by a lot so that you can see it more. And you can see that the chroma noise in the glass wall back here is entirely eliminated. I have more close-ups of this here. You can see this is what I'm talking about here, this chunkier red, green, and blue noise. That's basically the result of too much gain in the sensor. The sensor is right now trying to pick up as much light as possible. It becomes less discerning about what is noise and what is actual content. Another example here, you can see that we do a massive denoise. I mean, it's entirely eliminated, and we still have all of the visible detail preserved. Previous methods of denoising involved averaging pixels. You would pick maybe 8 pixels across, 6 pixels down. You would average the color and light values of those pixels, and you would effectively reduce the resolution to make it look cleaner. We've eliminated that here because we're able to actually pick off the chroma noise as if it was a layer on top of the footage. So the future of video AI is more models, further performance optimization, and secure on-premises server processing for teams. Keeping with the spirit of not having to upload massive files to a public cloud, for large teams that do want to take advantage of centralization and build a server with multiple GPUs that can run video AI tasks faster and keep your laptops and desktops open for other work, we have the ability to deploy video AI as an offline but locally connected server. All right, let's take some questions. I know there were quite a few questions. I've met a lot of you today at the booth, and that was really great. We love talking to people who have used the apps before. Yeah, go ahead.
In the DaVinci Resolve plugin,
yeah.
is it only in the color page, or does it work in the Fusion page as well?
So the Resolve plugin currently works in the edit page and the color page. The Fusion renderer in Resolve is slightly different, and it doesn't give us the exact order of frames that we would need for processing. It's something we're looking into, but right now we've noticed that most users really like using it as a color node because you can put a LUT conversion before it. You can pre-process other effects. You can add other things later on. That seems to be the most flexible way to use it. Other questions? OK. In that case, we have 20% off discounts for all of our apps available today to anybody at the expo. If you're a DPA member, you can access this all year long.
Can you, are all the apps separate apps or all the whole thing?
These are 3 separate desktop applications. We have Video AI, Gigapixel, and Photo AI.
And what are they? Explain to me.
So Video AI is the one that we've been showing the examples from. That's our only video processing application. It includes every single model. Gigapixel is actually one of our oldest and at the same time our newest image upscaling app. We've recently released version 7 that includes an entirely new interface and the ability to upscale more accurately and to larger resolutions than ever before. And Photo AI is an interactive editor that involves upscaling, denoising, and sharpening. You're also able to remove objects and people from your images, and it's a more complete photo editing tool, while Gigapixel is really tuned for people who do large printing or large display. Has anybody worked with the Ursa Mini Pro before? One? Okay. Heavy, right? Yeah. Yeah, we also tested a lot on the FX3, and we found that denoising is really becoming an important factor again, because when you shoot log footage, you have 10 bits of color, you have a really great all medium range exposure, nothing is clipped. But once you start to expand that range and create shadows and highlights, you'll find that the darker parts of your image start to show a lot of noise that moves around.
So you were saying earlier you can export in multiple codecs, I guess?
Yeah.
And I assume I would normally want to export in a really high-end codec or or something, but a lot of times delivery formats, they want it on MP4.
Yeah.
So would I export to MP4 out of your platform, or would I then go to another platform and do the changeover?
It would mostly depend on at which point you're using Video AI. There are 2 ways to do it, and both are equally effective. It just depends on your workflow. If you work with raw clips in Video AI and then you plan to edit in a tool like Premiere Pro or Resolve, we'd recommend going with like ProRes or Avid as the intermediate format. Gives you a nice high bit rate, easy to decode file for editing, and then from there you could create H.264 or HEVC. But we do support H.264 and HEVC in the app as well. So if you want to pre-edit and then run your final edited video through an upscaler, just as like a final step before delivery, you can create delivery class outputs from the app too. Yes? So we have 2 license types for Video AI. The individual license allows for 2 computers to use the app at the same time, and you can reassign those seats at any point. For professionals and teams, we have a custom pricing in place that includes a commercial usage license and priority support. You would contact our support team to get more information on that for your company. But for individual users, you can use it on your laptop and your desktop. You can use it on a home computer and a work computer, all under one license purchase. Other questions? Is everybody just sweating? Got it. Yeah. OK, that makes sense. Well, I know the recent history of the company, but our CEO, Eric Yang, is right there in the crowd, and he can probably give you a little more on the origin of the company. Yeah. But we've been based in Dallas for quite some time. Our team is growing very quickly. We have been very fortunate to find research talent from all across the globe who have traveled to come work with us, and we have put in thousands of hours of research time into these models. So we're really proud of the results that we're able to produce with this. Yes?
Does the Video AI 5 support B-RAW?
We don't support B-RAW directly in the app. If you use the Resolve plugin, you are able to work with B-RAW there. It's a mix of licensing restrictions and a little bit of technical restrictions. We do want to start supporting C-RAW, B-RAW, ARRI RAW. Red RAW will be a little bit different because of the way it's compressed, but it's definitely something we're looking at because, of course, that's where the industry's headed in terms of giving you as much latitude as possible with the formats that you capture. Yes?
So you talked about some of the enhancements and frame interpolation.
Yeah.
Will you talk a little bit about some of the other things that you can do
Sure, yeah. So, so stabilization is a really interesting feature for us because it has two specific components. We have two modes for it. There's auto crop stabilization, which is really familiar to any of you who have used Warp Stabilizer or the stabilization tool in any other app. You sacrifice the edges of the frame to keep the center steady. It's a good compromise. Our second mode is much more interesting. It's full frame stabilization. So we do the same motion estimation and we counteract the motion in the frame, but instead of cropping in to hide that the edges are bouncing around to counteract the motion, we use edge outpainting to recreate the edges of the frame so that if you had a perfect interview shot set up and somebody was stomping on the floor and you just need to stabilize a little bit, you don't lose that framing. You can use every pixel that you originally captured. We also have motion deblur, which in combination with the Ion model does a really great job simulating a faster shutter speed. Because as we all know, if you're going to shoot 120 FPS, ideally you would have a shutter speed of 1/240th or faster to capture enough stop motion to make it look good. When you combine these models together, that need is entirely eliminated. It just looks exactly how it would look if you were to capture at high speed. Yes?
Do you have any deinterlacing tools?
We do. So for interlaced content, we have models that are specifically trained on interlacing lines and how to recreate the top and bottom field and marry them together properly. And we also have upgraded our latest generation general enhancement model to work on progressive and interlaced footage. So we have several options available for deinterlacing and upscaling. In fact, we recently added a mode that does inverse telecine. So if you're working with footage that was originally shot on film, captured to tape, the film is gone, you only have the tape, we are able to actually undo the frame blending and duplication so that you get back that nice, perfect 24 frames per second, all unique frames. Let's see if I have, yeah. Anyone else? Do we need air? Yes.
How long is the 20% discount good for?
Okay, so for DPA members, that discount is available all year long in the members portal or in an email. I'm sure Ian would have more detail on that. But for today only, anybody who scans our QR code at the booth or up here, I can bring it back up on screen, you can also get 20% off whether or not you're a member.
But it's only for today?
Yeah, that code is only for today.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure there's obvious. So I can imagine, like, especially this plugin, whether it's in DaVinci Premiere, I'm guessing, especially use some of the features. Would you have to, like, say, if you're working with log footage, for example, you want to convert that log footage before, say, using the, whether it's the denoiser or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, so our AI engine is able to work with log footage directly. But the same way that you don't see all of the flaws in your footage before you apply a LUT or start to grade it, the AI model also can't see that until it's color graded. So specifically for denoising, I generally recommend doing your color grade first and just work with it, make your dream grade, allow the grain to show up, allow the noise to start popping up, and then run it through video AI so that the AI model is seeing the graded version, which is a lot more flawed than the ungraded version. Everything looks good in log, and then you start to see missed focus and lighting issues once you've converted it. Yeah?
Somebody was telling me at your booth about this, but you have a single seat usage, is that correct?
Yeah, so for individual users, we allow 2 seats per license. So if you have a laptop and a desktop, or you're in a rush and you're borrowing a friend's computer with a good graphics card, you can log in, use that on either one. For our pro plans, it's based on company size and a few other factors. So generally, the best thing to do is contact us about that.
I mean, like, is it a yearly or monthly?
Oh, it's yearly, yes. So it's not yearly subscription. You purchase the application, you can use it forever. If we haven't impressed you in the last 12 months with our updates, you don't need to buy it again. You can wait, continue to use your current one. We don't want to force you into subscription. If you paid $2.99 and for the past 3 years, Video AI version 2 has been doing great for you, you don't need to upgrade. You don't need to continuously pay us for access. We really want to bring back the idea of desktop application ownership to the AI space. We feel that a lot of the services offered right now bill per minute, per gigabyte, per frame, and it just becomes really hard to get started and actually feel excited about a tool if you feel like you're always being taxed for using it. So if you can get through the $299 price point, the value only gets better from there.
I wanted to ask, can AI help with the size of the file and then maintain the quality of the footage? Are we still there yet, or are we still?
So right now, I would say that AI and video compression are approaching a point of convergence, but they're not there quite yet, and I'll explain why. One of the hardest things to compress in video is noise and grain. One of the first things that gets thrown out when you need to reduce the size of a video are the tiny little particles that, at a certain viewing distance all kind of blend together, but as careful editors, and as probably lovers of cinema, we're all aware when we're looking at blocky noise rather than fine film grain. It's one of the hardest things to compress, so in an indirect way, our removal of noise makes files smaller by a lot. And we were actually surprised internally when we were testing this how much smaller our outputs would get. And it's the same codec, same bitrate target, everything is the same, but it's much easier to represent. This large area is just white rather than these are actually red, green, and blue pixels that are too small to really notice. So yeah, indirectly, we can shrink files using our AI models, but they're not working on more efficient compression. We just happen to create frames that are easier to compress anyway. Anybody here using video AI on a Windows machine, and what kind of Windows machine? We're always interested in the hardware that's available out there. Yeah.
I might use it on Windows.
You might use it on Windows. Great.
Yeah, I'm like looking at things just like gears kind of turning my
Yeah.
head about it. So it's like, and I also was going to quickly ask how's it when you go to use the denoising features, like like whether it's DaVinci Premiere and all that, whenever you use a denoiser plugin and so forth, it sometimes depends on the machine you use. It kind of bogs down the playback and all that.
Right.
I guess it could also come down to the type of machine you have when it comes to how smoothly does the playback go
Yeah.
when you integrate, like, say, your AI interface.
Yeah, my answer to that would be you're correct that it's largely hardware dependent, but we are able to take advantage of a lot of advancements in that space. Most of the video editing apps have hardware accelerated playback now, and we also offer the ability to pre-render sections of your timeline. So the same way that if you were to apply warp stabilizer in Premiere Pro and then have to pre-render it to see it at full speed, you can do that for the areas of your timeline where you've applied one of our models. And then their playback becomes as smooth as your computer can play any file. Yes?
I'm using it on Windows.
Yeah.
I've got a desktop. It's a 5900X.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Lots of VRAM. Video memory is one of the things that we really like having available in video AI. The more video memory you have, the less we need to subdivide images to process them. It increases the accuracy of our output. I'll get the discount codes back up here. There we go. All right, any other questions, or do we go get some cool air and continue this over at the 4 p.m. session? Yeah.
This may be way too downbeat. Do you have anything for what y'all are planning for the future? For me, I could see a platform that turns live action stuff into more like an animation.
Right,
I don't know
yeah.
if y'all have anything like that in mind. So those kind of things are interesting.
I do think some of the more creatively unlimited models are really interesting. We are very focused on creating something that is a representation of the work that you did, not a new creation by the model. But I do think there are areas in the middle, like the restyling models are really interesting, the ones that turn any scene into an anime or something like that. And that definitely becomes more possible as the average hardware that people are using becomes more advanced. Right now, I'd say we're still focused on our journey in being the very best at upscaling and enhancing real-life footage, but that's definitely something that's grown in popularity a ton, and it's something we'd explore in the future. Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining. I'll stay for questions for a little bit longer. Maybe we'll just go back to the booth. I'd really like to show some of you guys the standard definition remasters that Electric Now is able to produce using our app.